Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, as always, to the wonderful people here on Nevis, those on St. Kitts, those who are listening throughout the Caribbean. Good evening, especially to our friends and family in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands who hosted us last weekend and who really, it was such tremendous hospitality. That's all I can say. The warm hospitality of our people there, we really, really appreciated it. I'll get back to that. Good evening as well to our friends and family elsewhere in the Caribbean, Saba, Stacia, St. Martin, Anguilla, Montserrat, people who are listening in Barbados and farther afield in the Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada and the United Kingdom. Wherever you are, good evening. Welcome to another edition of On The Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I am here this evening, as I try to be every Wednesday, for another edition of this program. This is a program which seeks to invite public opinion, as I like to say, all shades of public opinion, and we invite people to come on, share their views and opinions. Even sometimes if they don't agree with me, that's okay. We invite people to call in. I want the CCM supporters out there to call in, members of the CCM executive to call in. I want the CCM candidates to call in. And guess what? I want the NRP to call in too. I want Labour to call in. I want PLP and PAM and whoever else is out there to call in. Call in, have your views heard. This is a big platform, and it's a platform that we utilize for, we hope, the better of our federation. We are hoping that our conversation, the level of our discourse, is pitched at a height that elevates us all. I like when callers call, and through our engagement, they help me, I help them, we help the audience. That's what it's about. Sometimes they call, they're far, far more knowledgeable than I am on particular topics, and they educate me, and in so doing, educate the public as well. So we're seeking to do something important here. We're seeking to lift the quality of discourse in the country. We sometimes get into disagreements, and that is okay. We can have different and divergent views. What I encourage us not to do is to become disagreeable, or of course to be disrespectful, because we don't tolerate that on the show. And we say, when you call, you are on a particular platform. Inform yourself about what it is you want to talk about. Write it down if necessary. Nothing is wrong with that. And when you come on, take as little time as you can. Be precise, be exact, and make your point. Sometimes people call as if they want to hang out. They just want to spend some time with me. They want to meander. They're not sure what is going on. Well, if that is the case, listen for a while. Inform yourself, or bring your own topic for that matter. We might be talking about the sun. You prefer to talk about the moon. That is okay. This is a show which belongs to the people, and once we open the lines, you have your opportunity to make your contribution. Now, I start on a sad note this evening. We have learned of the passing of Mrs. Verna Williams. Mrs. Verna Williams, who lived for a very long time at Brazier's. She is, of course, the sister to the Clark family there in Church Ground, and my own cousin as well. And I would want to extend my condolences to her family, her children. One of her sons has been in touch with me regularly, so I want to extend my condolences to him and to all of her children, but also to extend condolences to those who are here, her brothers and sisters who are here on the island of Nevis, and to say to them that Verna was such a beautiful soul, a beautiful woman. I always used to enjoy when she spoke to me with that English accent. You know, Caribbean people who live in England have a curious accent which is English but still hints of the Caribbean. And so Verna has gone, and we would want to extend our deepest condolences to the family. It is my hope that they will be comforted by the prayers of the multitude. It is also my hope that they'll be comforted by the memories of her. And I'm told that she passed peacefully in England, and I would really want to extend my condolences from all of us here at One Radio, my deepest condolences to the family of Verna Williams, who has passed on. I would also, of course, take the opportunity to extend condolences to anyone else out there who has lost a loved one. Sometimes the information doesn't get to me in time, and so I may not be aware, but please know that you're nevertheless in our thoughts and our prayers. And Nevis is always that kind of community. Despite our difficulties, despite our differences sometimes, we come together in times of bereavement, in times of sorrow, in times of tragedy. And I would really want all of you out there who may be struggling in some way, who may be mourning, who may be sick, to know that our thoughts and prayers are with you. And so, again, my deepest condolences to the family of Verna Williams, who has passed on. So to all the relatives here and all the relatives in England and elsewhere, please accept our condolences to you. And, of course, I extend my condolences on behalf of my own family and all of us here on The Mark and all of us here at Von Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been happening, and let me try to get through some of it. I started out by mentioning the warm reception we had. The CCM, the Concerned Citizens Movement, is going on the road. And we decided that it was time for us, after COVID, to go back out and to meet and interact with our people. And we decided that the US and British Virgin Islands would be our first stop. Now, I will be the first to admit that initially when we conceived of travel, we thought of going to St. Thomas and Tortola, because those two are easy to deal with because they're relatively close to each other. But we got so many calls from St. Croix that our people there were saying, well, you haven't come here in a while. And that is true, because the CCM has not been to St. Croix perhaps in a decade or so, that we decided to extend our stay by 1 day and to go to St. Croix. And so on Friday night last week, we were in Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas. On Saturday night, we were in Road Town in Tortola. And on Sunday, we were in St. Croix. And let me tell you, the turnout was fantastic. We had, I would guess, maybe about 80 people or so in St. Thomas. We expected more, but we understood that it was a night when people had a lot of things that were happening, and so we were grateful that so many turned out in the circumstances. We also were grateful that so many came over from St. John's. So I want to say thank you to Smitty and the whole crew, to Sonia, everybody who came. I want to thank my very, very good friend Roach and my very good friend Shark. I call him by their nicknames because I think I can, but Mr. Ronald Maynard and Mr. Cecil Farrell for taking care of the arrangements for us there, and of course Mrs. Maynard, who also helps us in the background. I'm really grateful to you. We went and we had a very, very good time, a very good engagement. The only concern expressed to us in St. Thomas is that we were overly long in our presentations, and so we decided, okay, let us learn from that, and let us, on our next stop, which was Road Town Tortola, let us try our very best and be not as prolix in our presentations. And so we did that in Tortola, and it went really well. I would say in Tortola we had maybe about between 60 and 70 persons. So again, a very good turnout. And the persons again came, they heard, they asked their questions. And what I loved most is that at each of these events we had refreshments, and so we were able, after the formal session, to engage with each other as Nivisions and Kittitians do. I was also very impressed that we had quite a few people from St. Kitts who also came and brought their views and opinions, and I really enjoyed the interaction. We then, well, I should say that from St. Thomas to get to Tortola, the ferry schedule was not convenient, and so we ended up having to get a water taxi, and that was quite something. We went over, and I want to thank all of those who made the arrangements for us to get us safely to Tortola. And then we had at Maria's by the Sea in Tortola that meeting, which went extremely well. We then flew from Tortola to St. Croix, and when we got to St. Croix, we had an excellent meeting in St. Croix. In fact, St. Croix had the largest crowd by far. Maybe well over 100 people might have been there. I didn't get a full tally, but we had a full hall. It was like coming home. St. Croix was really live and lively. People came out again, good mix of Kittitians and Nivisions. There was even one chap there who told me that he's from Brownhill. He said his father named Posa. It was quite a joke because obviously he was making it up. I think is a chap that tell me he's from St. Lucia or Dominica, but he clearly hangs around with Nivisions and wanted to pass himself off as a Nivision. But it was good fun, and we had a good interaction. The questions came, the comments came, the suggestions and recommendations came, and I just felt so proud. Felt so proud to be the Premier of Nevis and to be able to go and report in person to our people. I felt proud of my colleagues, the Honorable Spencer Brand and the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, for how they presented themselves, how they presented their plans, the confidence with which we were able to speak of our record in government. You see, many people, ladies and gentlemen, are talking about what they might do. Many people are engaged in a game of bashing us and saying all manner of evil against us. We are engaged in actually doing and creating a record that people can see, feel and touch. And it was interesting, a comment that came from the floor. I believe, if I'm correct, that it would have been in Tortola. I'm hopeful I'm correct on that. But the comment was from a gentleman who said that he had been to Nevis recently, and he asked about the quality of eye care in Nevis. And I said, well, we had, of course, visiting specialists that come several times a year. He said, well, he wanted me to roll out a program in Nevis, and he wanted the government to get behind having everyone on the island's eyes tested. And I thought that was an interesting recommendation coming from the floor. The man was very serious about it. He said, yes, I believe that there is a problem in Nevis, and that Nevisians should get their eyes tested so that the government can get an understanding of the extent of the problem. And when I inquired further as to why he had said that, he said because he had come to Nevis, and for the life of him, he couldn't understand why the NRP kept saying they can't see anything happening in Nevis. So his only conclusion was that they clearly had issues with their vision, and he was therefore recommending that we do a wholesale eye examination on the island of Nevis. And that, I think, provided the level of mirth and merriment as for which Nevisians are known, because he said this very deadpan. He was making a very serious suggestion, and he said he just can't understand this constant rhetoric about nothing happening. He said they must be blind. They must be blind. And so to report, to talk about what we've done in water, talk about what we've done with electricity, to talk about what we're doing in healthcare, to talk about what we're doing with roads, to talk about the economy and job creation, to talk about projects that had been executed and that are functional, the water taxi pier and events such as those. I thought it was simply a truly phenomenal experience. And as I said, the water taxi pier, I have a notation here because I think that it is useful. The water taxi facility opened in May of 2019. May of 2019. And of course, we understood that by March of 2020 we had COVID, 2021 COVID. But do you know that thus far, up to September of 2022, that water taxi facility has seen from May of 2019 until September 2022, 132,011 passengers have come through that portal. 66,839 in 2019, 25,809 in 2020, and thus far in 2021, 85,824. That was an investment that we made in support of a local industry, the water taxi industry, which at this point is 100% owned by Nevisians. And so the people of the Virgin Islands, who are of course our people, because they are also Nevis and St. Kitts, appreciated that type of vision, the ability that we had to transform and take something that was existing and make it better. And when we look at the numbers, we see that the water taxi facility that is being vilified every day, I'm told, by the opposition. And the irony of ironies is that while they're vilifying it, they're using it. They're walking on it every day, taking ferries to and from St. Kitts using it, but every chance they get, they vilify it. And that is perhaps the nature of man. We are not to worry. And unfortunately, it appears the nature of woman as well. So we are not to worry too much about that. But again, going back to the report, they were very pleased to hear. And so many of them are so in touch. And that is why you see I keep saying that I can never be part of any effort to disenfranchise Nivisians and Kittitians living abroad. It just does not sit well with me. I cannot be part of it, because when I talk to our people in St. Thomas, in Tortola, in St. Croix, they are our people. They are connected. I heard one gentleman get up and talked about, I think he was in Tortola, talked about the whole area in Brick Hill and Ghana's, and he called some names that I confess I had never heard of. He said yes, he grew up, he knows that area like the back of his hand. And he mentioned those areas and was able to give us the type of history. How are you going to tell a man like that he can't get involved in the politics of his island? How? So now I hear the opposition here in Nevis with this big song and dance about people flying in to vote, and somehow they have a problem with it. Well, if they have a problem with it, why were they up in New York during Labor Day? Why were they? They had a political meeting in New York. Well, if you don't want people in New York to come home and vote, then why are you going up to disturb them? We have no such difficulty, because we say that the people who happen to live in the diaspora are our people. We are theirs and they are ours. They are our family. Many of them naval stringberry right here on the island of Nevis. How are you going to tell them that they can't participate in deciding the future of their home? Because no matter how long they're over there, they will always say that they're only there temporarily. That is how we are. You know, and one of the biggest issues on the table on our recent town hall and listening tour in the Virgin Islands, people want it easier for them to get to and from Nevis. That is their concern. They want to come home for Christmas. They want to spend time with their families. So many people are giving me an envelope. Listen, I put some money in here for my cousin. I put something here for my sister. Could you take this back for me? We are one people. And I will not be part, and I say it openly because I believe in it passionately, of any effort to disenfranchise our people living overseas. They have the right. That right was given to them by law. And I believe it is a fundamental right to determine or to assist in determining the direction of their country. Too many of them have given too much to the development of this island to be castigated and talked about they don't know nothing about Nevis. They just take a plane and come here. Where do people get that from? I mean, I believe it was in, again, I'm getting the islands mixed up in terms of what comments were made where. But one gentleman got up and he said, could we tell him what has happened to NTV News? Because he hasn't seen it in the past couple of days. And we had to explain that there was an issue there, and so the news was temporarily suspended, and he said, okay. I mean, the man knew that NTV News was not on the air. They tell me they listen to On the Mark, and that's why I said a special good evening to them. So they are connected. They are with us. They are of us. And I am never going to join. You know why? I tell people all the time, some of us pretend that we forget. I hear my opponent, for example, in St. John's, up and down every day she on Facebook saying things to suggest that somehow our friends and family overseas, that is wrong for them to come in to vote. I read something recently where the good gentleman from MRI, the MRI movement, whatever it's called, he too jumped up and started to say, oh, that it is wrong for our people from overseas to come in to vote. And I said, you know, the irony of ironies, they're old enough because they're older than me. And I remember being on our landing, as we call it. You all know what landing is? On our gallery, on our porch, as modern people would say. And my sisters and I would count the barrels going into Brownhill. People used to go down there. The old warehouse was right there in Charlestown. And you see people in there rummaging through to try and find their barrel. Where the barrels coming from? The same Virgin Islands. When those boats came up from the VI, loaded with barrels, the barrels had in food, clothing. For us. These were the people who supported and sustained us. Over the years, Nevis started to do better. As the Four Seasons came, jobs came, tourism increased, offshore industry, we started to do better. But let us never forget from whence we came. Let us never forget when things were hard in Nevis, who used to take care of us. And I should know because my father lived in America and that little check came home every month. And when we went up, and I've told the story a million times, I will tell it a million more if necessary. But there was a man called Irvin Thompson, OT they used to call him, OT shop. You didn't have any money, so you went up to OT shop and you took your groceries on credit. You hear what I'm saying? You trust, that's what we used to call it, you trust the groceries. And then when that little check came, my mother was able to settle up with OT. Settle up the little bills that we had. There was a lady called Tiny Drew of blessed memory. She was a seamstress. And I always cherish the memory of Mrs. Drew. You know why? Because Mrs. Drew, who was a poor woman herself, she used to come to Gingerland, to Handley's Road. She used to sometimes come, if I recall, with a man, they used to call him Harry Wee Wee. He had a bus, and she would come. And I remember her walking down Handley's Road with a suitcase on her head. And she would come to my mother, and my mother did not have the money to pay her for our uniform to go to school. Little short pants and a little shirt for me. And Mrs. Drew would say, it's okay. Go ahead and take it on trust. And when you can pay me, you pay me. You imagine that? A poor woman extending credit to another poor woman. And when that little money came from my father, my mother was able to pay her little bills. And you think I, as a politician now and as a leader, could say to people like my father that they don't have a say in Nevis? When they kept Nevis afloat, I cannot do it. If there are those out there who in good conscience could do it, then God bless them. I cannot do it. And I want to assure our people in the Virgin Islands who came out, those who are listening tonight, our people in New York and Canada and elsewhere, that so long as I am involved, I will stand up in every forum and defend your right, if you so desire, to participate in deciding the future of your island home and your country. Because no matter how far you roam, I know that Nevis and St. Kitts will always be your home. And so we went and we had a good time, well received. On Sunday night, we were entertained by the governor of the Virgin Islands, and I want to extend thanks to Governor Brian, and he really showed us a wonderful time, and we really enjoyed it. And I learned a fun fact. I'm told that in some census that was done, some 19% of Virgin Islanders trace their origins or were directly from St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we are a very important group of people in the Virgin Islands. And it showed, because at our meeting in St. Thomas, we had 3 senators who showed up at that meeting, including the lady Sarah, I think her name is, who's running for lieutenant governor of the Virgin Islands. And the election is on November 8th. And so in St. Croix again, we had a senator who showed up there. And that senator, in fact, his family is from Nevis. In fact, Sam, if you're listening, he said to tell his uncle Sam, he said hello. Young man doing big things. And so the connection is there. And I think that it's only people who are trying to forget their past and trying to forget the contribution that those overseas have made, who are now acting and talking about they ought not to be playing a role. I will not subscribe to that, and I say that without reservation. So guess what's happening? New York, it is your turn. We will be coming to New York. The CCM team will be in New York on Saturday, this coming Saturday. And we will start the event at 6 p.m. and the event will be at Grace Episcopal Church in New York. And that is at 1909 Vice Avenue in the Bronx. 1909 Vice Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10460. We start at 6 p.m. at the Grace Episcopal Church, and we're inviting all of New York, all of Boston, all of Connecticut, all of New Jersey. Please, come on out and be a part of this. If you're in D.C. and Maryland and you could drive up, please. It is an important meeting as we update you about what we are doing, what we have done, and what we plan to do. And so we urge you to come out. So this is this Saturday in New York City. The CCM will be there, 1909 Vice Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10460, at the Grace Episcopal Church, and we start that meeting at 6 p.m. As usual, of course, we'll have refreshments so that we'll have a chance to mingle afterwards and have a conversation. Some people tell us that, listen, sometimes they have a personal matter they want to discuss, and we'll have that opportunity as well. We want a packed hall. We really want people to come out and spend a Saturday evening with us, hearing about Nevis, hearing about St. Kitts, hearing what is happening in your hometown. And of course, we will be on hand, the various ministers, to bring updates to you. And so New York, New York, New York, we look forward to seeing you this Saturday. Again, it will be at the Grace Episcopal Church, and that is at 1909 Vice Avenue in the Bronx, 10460. That's the zip code. We start at 6 p.m. Come on out and be a part of our event there. We'll also have some images to show you, some videos to show you. We are hoping to get all that together so that you can see for yourselves, if you have not been here recently, what is going on in your country. And that for us is critical. Canada, already I'm here in Toronto calling. We are going to see what is possible for you. St. Martin, Anguilla, we know that you're calling as well. We want our people to hear the news about what's happening in their island. But we are not, of course, forgetting Nevis itself. And so tomorrow, Thursday, we are having the first of our town hall meetings on the island of Nevis. It will be at 7:30 p.m. at the Credit Union building. So tomorrow, the ministers will be on hand at the Credit Union building. Tomorrow, Thursday, the Credit Union building in Charlestown, and we're having a town hall meeting. We're inviting, again, the people of Nevis to come. CCM supporters, NRP supporters, people who are not even supportive of any party. It doesn't matter. You are here, you have an interest. If you are non-national, you're from the Dominican Republic, you're from Guyana, you're from Jamaica, you're from Dominica, you're from Haiti, you're from Grenada, wherever you are from, please come on out and be a part of our meeting. Ask your questions. Bring your ideas and suggestions. We are calling it a listening tour because we are here to listen, to update you, yes, to tell you what we're doing, to give you our plans for the future, but also to listen to you and to see how you can infuse those plans and make them even better. So tomorrow, Thursday, at 7:30 p.m., we have the first in our local town hall meetings at the Credit Union building right in the heart of Charlestown. See you there at 7:30. And then on Saturday at 6 p.m., we will be in New York City at the Grace Episcopal Church, 1909 Vice Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10460 is the zip code, and we start, as I said, at 6 p.m. And again, our mission is to ensure that all of our people, wherever you are, you get it from the proverbial horse's mouth. That you don't have to listen to the propaganda. You hear the information, you see for yourself, you get a chance to ask your questions. And I think it's important. For example, when we were in St. Thomas, a well-known supporter of the NRP got up and she was reading from a script. It was quite obvious that she was reading something prepared for her, and she read out and she said to Mr. Brand, "Oh, could you tell us if you disclose your $120 million project to the Integrity Commission?" And I thought Mr. Brand's answer was a perfect answer, because it seems that the NRP has been on this track about corruption. And where none exists, it looks to me that they're seeking to create some notion of corruption. And so they keep flogging this dead horse about Mr. Brand and some $120 million project. Mr. Brand explained yet again to this young lady One, that he and his wife purchased lands way back, I believe he said in 2008. They borrowed money from the bank to purchase the lands. The lands they purchased were private lands, not government lands. He said he used his skills as an architect. He designed something and he sought approval under the Citizenship by Investment program as a local businessman. He got whatever approvals locally in 2014. Then he said he got approval in principle from St. Kitts in 2015. Mr. Brand indicated that to date he has not been able to start his project because he has not had not even one single solitary sale of any unit under the CBI program. That's worthwhile repeating. He has not started his project because he has not had one single solitary sale under the CBI program. And the reason for that, he explained, is that there is such massive underselling that has been happening that he was not willing to break the law, as some appear to be willing to do, and to offer the units at a price that is not mandated by law. He then went on to say that he had disclosed to the Integrity Commission the fact that he and his wife owned some land, because that's all he owns. There is no development on the land. There is no CBI that has been sold. And so all he owns is the land. And he has declared that, of course, he and his wife own some acreage that they bought back in 2008. But what I thought was most telling is that Mr. Brand was at pains to explain that all that he did in relation to buying land, developing a project using his skills as an architect, and seeking permission to develop that land were done prior to December 2017. And what is the relevance of December 2017? December 2017 was when Mr. Brand was elected into office. Put differently, Mr. Brand did all that he did while he was a private citizen. Let me say it again for emphasis. Mr. Brand did all that he did while he was a private citizen and a businessman, before he was ever elected into office in Nevis. And so I keep asking myself, where is the corruption that the NRP keeps talking about? Where? Should my opponent be chastised because she owns a big building down here on the bypass road? Why should she be chastised for that? She's a businesswoman. She has invested in a building. I wish more people would invest, and I wish she could invest in another 2 or 3. Why would she be chastised for that? Now, it is a different matter altogether if she is elected into office and then she starts acquiring big buildings. Then, of course, I think is a legitimate question to ask. But you're going to chastise a man for buying a piece of land in his own island where he born? You're going to chastise his wife in she own island, so they must invest for the benefit of their family and their children? Where is the corruption? That is what I don't understand. The way it is. And I was so happy that Minister Brand got the opportunity. And it clearly is a talking point for NRP, because when we got to St. Croix, a gentleman with a big beard, can't remember his name now, but he got up and he, same point again. Oh, did you disclose your 120 million? And Mr. Brand again was able to explain to him. And then he just had to sit down, because it is what they call a nothing burger. There's nothing there. It's just like this fallacy that they keep spreading, that $400 million is unaccounted for in Nevis. Rubbish. Because they're driving it every day. They see it every day. They know that for 2 years during the pandemic we had no money coming in. Well, how do they think public servants got paid on time and in full every month? And the money wasn't even enough to pay public servants. Because we're getting $45 million a year. And our wage bill is over $100 million. So they know, but yet they persist in spreading the falsehoods. And keep beating this dead horse about corruption. I am proud to say, ladies and gentlemen, that we have an unblemished record in government. You know why? Vance Amry of blessed memory said to us when we first got into government in 2013, he don't stand for no shenanigan. And I took that as my personal mantra when I became leader in 2017. My colleagues know I don't stand for any shenanigan. And as a consequence, we've run a clean ship. A clean ship. No allegations can be made against me that have any credibility, because I have said and can say before God and man, my hands are clean. And I am prepared to go to bat for my colleagues, all of them, because I've always said to them, if you want me and you to fall out, that is the easiest way. Because I was raised in a household where my mother, Vicky of blessed memory, don't take up what you never put down. And so what they've sought to do is to concoct these stories. I mean, how are you going to castigate a man and his wife for buying land in 2008 when the man not getting government till 2017? You realize that's nearly 10 years later? How are you going to castigate a man for getting permission for development 2 years before he became an elected parliamentarian? And that is what I'm saying. That is what is passing as debate. And they get on these radio stations and they talk this nonsense, and nobody's there to say, "I finish your talk." So they just go ahead and they say it anyway. And I am asking the NRP, please stay away from these types of discussions, because I do not know if you can say before God and man your hands are clean. When I was in the VI, I raised down there with persons I met this issue of the coastal zone management and what happened 20 years ago. And there was an interesting discussion about who fly the coop and how they happened to fly the coop at just the same time as the federal government swept in and swept up others. People went to jail. You know what they went to jail for? For corruption. Check up what they didn't put down. There was a company called Elite, and the papers described the company as a phantom company. Well, phantom sounds like a big word. It means zombie, ghost. And what I find is most interesting is that the documentation said that the current leader of the NRP, who was the head of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, sat on a panel of 4 and awarded a lucrative contract to Elite, a phantom company. They went on to say that a cursory check would have revealed that Elite was not what it said it was. But she and the other 3 gave Elite the contract anyway, above other highly qualified bidders. It went on to say that when her own staff reported to her that Elite was not performing under the terms of the contract and had not been submitting its reports in a timely manner, that she nevertheless authorized further payments to Elite, that phantom company. And then when the federal government swooped in, she happened to be in Nevis at the time. Coincidence? What a marvelous word. And to this day has failed to explain to Nevisians. Well, what did you know? What was your role, if any, in the investigation, in what happened in the events of 20 years ago? How is it you happened to find yourself in Nevis when things went awry? And in your own words, multiple members of your team were convicted and went to prison. And you have the temerity, the audacity, the gall, the gumption to be out there attacking other people about corruption and integrity, when the people of Nevis still do not have an understanding from you of what happened in the US Virgin Islands. Now, in her own words, the leader said, I was at the height of my career, a very lucrative career, and left it all to come home to Nevis. And it just so happened that while she left it all to come home to Nevis, multiple members of her team were being investigated, arrested, prosecuted, and jailed. But we must not ask anything. Because you see, to ask for an explanation, they say, is attacking. How is that attacking? If I'm in charge of any team and multiple members of that team end up in jail for corruption, and I come to people now and I say, put me in charge of an even bigger team, I want to be in charge of Nevis, you're saying that no question should be asked? Nobody's making any accusation. We simply don't know. And so we're asking the question. What did you know? When did you know it? What was your role in the investigation? Did you give evidence? What? No answer. But yet they get on every radio station attacking decent Hebrew boys of corruption. Where's the corruption? I am prepared to have that debate with any member of the NRP. Any one of them want to have that discussion about integrity, about who has proven and demonstrated, and I'm prepared to have that debate. I'm prepared to have it. They like to jump out and they call your name and they say, oh, you're this and you're that and you're the other, but they forget. They forget. Some of them were running full-fledged private businesses out of government offices. When you went there for the services that the government offered in those offices, they told you make the check payable to them. They want to get into that conversation with me? I don't think so. Because I'm pretty sure at my own household I could find check stubs where we went to a government office for service offered by the government and we were asked to pay the check to a private individual. You all better stay away from that type of discussion, because if we have to engage in it, I do not believe it's a discussion that you can win. Let us therefore focus on what plans we have for the island, and let us engage in a debate about those plans. Because if you all open up that can and continue to attack those in the CCM without one scintilla, one shred, one iota of evidence, then we will have to tangle. And I assure you, if we tangle, there is no way that you can prevail. Because unlike you, we have the evidence of what you have been doing. Running a private business or the government office. Private business. And that is why sometimes, when you seek to ask yourself, What is the motivation of some? Why is it in the autumn of their years they suddenly realize that Nevis has poor people and that there are problems on the island? Never realized all before. Mark you. Didn't think of poor people when they were running their private enterprise out of the government office. No, no, no. That was all right because it was beneficial to them. But when the gravy got turned off and the tap got turned off, oh, there's some poor people in Nevis. Nevis people suffering. Nevis people struggling. This government is killing Nevis people. Nevis people can't eat. But for all those years, they didn't realize, or perhaps it didn't matter. You see, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of our people use politics as an excuse. Let me try to pronounce the word properly. They use politics as an excuse for whatever personal issues or vendetta that they have. You see, a lot of them who are making noise say how much I love Nevis. It's not that they love Nevis. They hate somebody. And there's a distinction. Because when you engage with them and you start to really examine what they're coming with, they're not really coming with anything to advance you, you know, because you're not their focus. They hate somebody. And I know because I've come in for a lot of it. I saw a comment from an NRP supporter. And I thought that comment was telling, because the person said that they are not supporting NRP. They are against Mark Brantley. And so if a big stone was put there on the ballot against Mark Brantley, they would vote for the big stone. And that's telling, because we know a big stone can't do anything for you. I am not, lest I be misquoted, calling the NRP candidates big stones. Please, I don't want anybody to say I said that. I'm merely referring to what this blogger put out. That if they put a big stone against me, they will vote for the big stone. Because you see, they don't really stand for anything. They only stand against something. And in my case, on the CCM, against someone. I see them go out there taking picture of Alexis Jeffers' house. I have never heard Alexis Jeffers thief anything from anybody. Has defrauded anybody. Has been dishonest in any way, and I've known him since sixth form. Never heard any such thing. What I've heard about him, he works hard. That's what I've heard about him. And if at the ripe age of 53, 54 years old, he has been able to acquire a home after years of hard work, why should you go take pictures of his house and bandy the photos around as if to say what? The house is too good for him? Is that what you're saying? He's a poor boy from Goat Hole, so he shouldn't have a home that he can be proud of? Is that what you're saying? Or what are you saying then to the poor boy from Brownhill or Butlers? The poor boy from Jessops and Henley Park? That they shouldn't aspire to have anything? And we have to be careful about the messaging. They used to do it to me. Alexis, don't feel bad. I catch a whole man outside my house in Montpellier with a videotape. A whole man they bring here from Sinkit some time ago for the NRP campaign. So they like to do that. They send a whole drone over my house in Montpellier. A whole drone. To do what? Capture images. They put out an ad one time. Put up a picture of a BMW. They say, he drives this and you take the bus. Then they put up a picture of my home. They say, he lives here and you live here. And you know what here they put? Cherry Gardens that they built for people to live in. Just, it tells you that there is no thinking or thought going into it. It is all about personal vendetta. But they use politics as a mask, as a disguise. They say, I love you. I want to help. How can I help? All them life, them never know that people need help, but they know now. Because they are upset about something. And that's why I say, I really don't want to get into this, the nitty-gritty of it. Certainly. And that's why I'm issuing the clarion call and the warning tonight. Leave well enough alone. Because there was no problem with Mark Brantley during the time when private business was being run from government office. No problem. But the minute that stopped, oh, there's so many poor people in Nevis. Oh my God, people can't eat. We have to get rid of Mark Brantley. You see how life is funny? You see how life is funny? And too many of them, a lot of them I see blogging, have overnight become spokespersons for the NRP. And I scratch my head and I smile. I smile. Because I say, if Nevis people know what I know, they will stay far from them. That's why I have distanced myself. People should stay far from them. Love of Nevis, love of Nevis, love of self, and hatred and venom towards some people is what is driving some of them. And it comes out. It comes out very clearly. You know, and I must touch on this because I think it's an important topic. We made history when Latoya Jones, young woman from Barnesgood, was elevated and became the first female opposition senator and deputy speaker from Nevis in the National Assembly. It follows a tradition because CCM had the first ever elected female parliamentarian in the Honorable Jean Harris. That was in 1997. Jean Harris, the Honorable Jean Harris, represented the people of St. James as their elected member until 2011, when she handed over to the Honorable Alexis Jeffers. Nobody could have beaten Jean. We know that. In 2013, when the CCM got back into office, the Honorable Vance Amory selected the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams as the junior minister and a member of cabinet. In 2017, when I became the leader and premier, I again selected the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams as a member of the cabinet and senator. And in 2022, the party has again selected a female and a young woman. So we are giving a nod to youth and women and put that person in a position in St. Kitts. Now cast your eyes back with me and your minds back with me. When the NRP launched their female leader, their female candidates, it was all about empowering women. You all remember? It was all about, this is time now for women. Women, 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 women. That was the cry. And it is time that women be elevated. Well, some of the comments that I have seen about Latoya Jones being elevated, I have to wonder whether or not she's a woman. Because what it suggests to me is that all this talk about women and women empowerment is nothing but froth. No mobby. They don't really mean it. What they really want to do is to use it for some kind of emotive gain, to play on your emotions, to say to you, oh, women can do a good job, give women a chance. Because if they really meant it, then when women were being given a chance, or wherever women are given a chance, they should be in the front of the line saying, well done, well done, well done. A woman has been elevated. But that is not what they've done. They have attacked and attacked. I saw a comment I believe I have it saved because it was particularly offensive to me. And I'm a man. But it was offensive to me because it came from another woman, also in politics. And she referred to the young lady as a Barbie doll. A Barbie doll. And I said to myself, look at that. I remember I was down in the house and I said that the only thing that has changed about the NRP is that they now have lipstick on and mascara. But it's the same old khaki skirt, the same old approach. And they say, oh, you're talking down to women, you shouldn't talk like that about women. Well, women wear mascara and they wear lipstick, so what's wrong with saying that? The point that I was seeking to make is that you all shouldn't hide behind feminism and women empowerment when you don't mean it. You shouldn't. Because women who are truly interested in empowering women support all women. Support them, support their empowerment. Because how else are you going to get up the hill? Unless you're willing to support each other. And I am proud of the CCM because we have made history in the first elected female to parliament. We have nominated not once but twice to the cabinet a female. And we have now made history again with the senator and deputy speaker being female. And it was interesting in St. Kitts how there was a huge hullabaloo. And rightfully so. There should be a huge hullabaloo. There should be a huge celebration that there's a female speaker and deputy speaker. The throne speech was read by Her Excellency Marcella Liebert, who was Governor General's deputy. There are 1, 2, 3 females on the government benches. 1 elected and 2 senators. The most females ever in the history of the Parliament of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I think that is something we should be proud of. If we are truly serious with what we say, that we want to empower women. But instead of that, them, Lord Jesus, them a cuss. Lord, them a cuss, them a criticize, them a castigate, them casting aspersions, them all kind of things. And I say, what? So what has happened to women empowerment? And, you know, it is the hypocrisy that really irks me. Because just as I say, they have discovered a new love for Nevis, which I use as the disguise for their hatred of some people. Politics, you see, for them isn't really about doing anything for you, you know. It's about getting back at somebody who they feel wronged them, they didn't get what they wanted. And I could go down the line and I could tell you exactly in each of their cases what happened. Because I know. I could tell you. And invariably it comes down to something that they insisted upon that could not happen. One of them didn't want to retire. Had got all the extensions that the law allowed. I said, Lord, I can't do no more. I can't go any further. Please, I've done all that I can do. I have not given you 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. I've given you 5 years more. I can't go no further. Oh, you think you're the worst thing in the world. Because they want to continue to work indefinitely. When there are young people in the same department who need to be elevated, them no want to go home. And then they vex with me. I'm the devil. Because I said I can't do any more. The law does not allow me to do any more. And that is sometimes the nature. And you see, sometimes we don't want to get into all these weeds, you know. We don't want to get into the details. And that's why I tell them, mine, I'll leave me alone. I'll leave me alone. Leave CCM alone. Let me focus on the issues. Because if I go down there and we go down there with you, it's trouble. It's trouble because this, oh, I'm so in love with Nevis and the visions, which is of recent vintage. It will be laid bare for the world to see that you have no love for Nevis. You have no love for the visions. You have love for yourself. Because when you were feeding at the trough and never want to go home, you had no problems. But suddenly, you got the biggest problem in the world. And all this evilness and corruption and badness and worthlessness going on in CCM. And that is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, that gets to me. The lack of genuine effort, the lack of genuine hope, the lack of a genuine approach to the people of Nevis. And instead what you get is a mess of pottage. You get all kind of people making noise. You know, I'm going to end my soliloquy soon. But I have to say this because it's something that I smile at all the time. I see my good teacher, Hensley Daniel, walking up and down in the hot sun with the too hard shoe as usual. And say knocking on doors and going house to house for my opponent. And I said, life is so interesting. Because I made the comment publicly the other day that how it is that the NRP is looking for help from people who did their best to kill the NRP. And it's a good question to ask. Because when you now look at this NRP and you look at the people who are out in front, one, you have some people who appeared out of nowhere, like the leader, because she was fast asleep for 20 years and woke up as the leader of NRP. Nobody knows from when she came. Then you have some people who are strong CCM, who again paid no due, just catapult, boom, they are now the candidates for the NRP. You have some people who are strong CCM, who sometimes when I reflect on their writings and their antics and the suggestions and recommendations they made to CCM over the years to keep NRP in the wilderness, and boom, they are the chief spokespersons and bloggers for the NRP. And I ask myself sometimes, well, what has become of the real NRP soldiers? Those who were there through thick and thin, those who fought when the fight was hardest. What has become of them? I don't hear a thing about none of them now. You don't even see them on social media anymore. They have been replaced. And who have they been replaced by? CCM people. And I'm going to say so here on the radio tonight because I know it to be true. If tomorrow you see I were to say, all of you CCM people out there who pretending to be NRP, and I'm going to use the words of Edward Siaga, when some members left the JLP, you know what I tell them? Light a candle, sing a Sankey, and find your way home. And I know if tomorrow I were to say that, a lot of them will find their way home. And I'm saying to the NRP, is this your plan, really? To push up these people and put them in people's face? You think Nevis people don't know them? Huh? And this is what I don't understand. And that is why you have a campaign that is not based on any ideas coming from the other side. Make allegations. Make nasty insinuations about people. Attack. Throw as much mud as you can and hope that something will stick. That is your approach. And then tell the world how many poor people in Nevis and how many people are dead or hungry. That is the approach. And forget about putting on the table any ideas for the advancement of our island and our people. Cost the overseas voters. Say them on about Nevis and they come here to vote. Do all of that. Because you see, you're coming at it from the wrong direction. You're not coming at it with any genuine love of people and desire to serve. To the contrary, you're coming at it because you're vexed with somebody for something that you did not get. That's all. You vexed with somebody for something that you did not get, or something that you had that you were told could not continue. That's all. That cannot be a basis, my friends, for politics. Politics is about service. It's about seeing a need and intervening to satisfy that need. It has never been about self. And those who make it about self ultimately will not last. And so I'm going to make a prediction tonight. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a prophet. But I will predict tonight that when this election is called in the new year, that some of you who are currently posturing as politicians will no longer be around as politicians. That the defeat delivered in the federal election will be compounded in the local election, and all of you will retire. You know why? Because you never came to politics for the right reasons. And absent the passion for people that ought to guide you, you will have nothing more. Because I am surprised that after all the billboards you put up about 400 million and lose, you're still talking. It tells you that people are telling you by their actions that what you said, Chupiness. Attacking Mr. Brand, Chupiness. Taking pictures of Alexis' house, Chupiness. We really need to talk about ideas. And that is my hope going forward. We certainly will be rolling them out. And that is why we're inviting one and all to our town hall meeting tomorrow night at the Credit Union building right there in Charlestown at 7:30. Come on out and hear what the CCM has done, is doing, and plans to do. In New York, we'll be at the Grace Episcopal Church, 1909 Vice Avenue, 10460 on Saturday coming at 7:30 p.m. Come on out and hear us. Those of you in Boston and Connecticut, New Jersey, make the trip. Washington, D.C., make the trip. Come be with us and hear what we are doing and what we plan to do. And we will continue in that vein. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 past the hour of 9 o'clock. I just want to report quickly, before I open the lines, my gratitude to the Winsong Foundation. They have delivered yet again for the children of Nevis. We received 250 tablet devices, which will be distributed to those children that need them, whose families cannot afford them. That will be done through the Department of Education and through the schools. We expect a large number of laptops that will also arrive for distribution to teachers and others. We expect a large quantity of musical instruments, including steel drums, steel pans. And we have just taken delivery, I'm told, of another brand new school bus, which brings our complement of buses now to 7, including 5 that we have received brand new from the Windsong Foundation. So I want to go on record to thank them for their continued commitment to the children of Nevis, and to thank the Honorable Troy Liebert for his leadership, because he and his team have really been working hard to deliver in relation to these matters and for the advancement of education on the island of Nevis. And so I say thank you to them. And I end this long soliloquy by reporting that I was pleased to meet this afternoon with the High Command from the Coast Guard and the Army, the Defense Force, because they have decided that it is time for there to be a base on Nevis for the Coast Guard and the Defense Force. And so we would hope that in the near future that Coast Guard Defense Force base will be established here. Particularly the Coast Guard, we know, is invaluable for those fishermen, yachters, boaters, etc. when they get into difficulty, but it is also important to assist us in keeping our borders safe. And so I look forward again to that development, including our young men and women having the opportunity, if they so desire, to make a career in the military or in the Coast Guard. It is now therefore 14 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and I will now take your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mark Brantley.
Good evening to you.
I listen you on the radio, but somebody tell me that you say you only for Davis, you know, for St. Kitts. But I tell them you can't do that because me from St. Kitts too. So you got to on the opposite bench for St. Kitts and Nevis, not Nevis one. So I want to know, because are you from St. Kitts? Yeah. So you good program, but you know, election is all over and everybody got to live good. But some of us who argue for the politics, we ain't get nothing, you know, but who no argue? The email and the text and they get already won. But God is low. Tell the white fellow and everybody enjoy.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And the truth is that you say I'm all for Nevis. I don't think that there is anything wrong with representing the people who voted for you. We went into Parliament and we've been sent to Parliament by the people of Nevis. But when we go to Parliament, we are debating national issues, and so we are seeking, and if tomorrow you listen, you will hear the contributions that seek to make laws and policies better for all of us. But we are from Nevis, just as the other parliamentarians were from St. Kitts, and they too must represent. That is the way it works. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Dr. Sheriff.
Good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay so far. Good night to my family and friends over there in Canada. Proverbs 3 verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. To God be the glory. Good night, Dr. Sheriff.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sheriff. Good night. Thank you. It is 16 minutes past the hour. We're taking your calls. I've been talking for a long time, so it's now your time to talk. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
I want to say sympathy going out to the Clark family at church grounds in the passing of their sister, auntie, cousin. I'm her cousin. Her mother was my aunt, Lorna Williams. Really a cousin though. Mr. Brantley, there's a situation happened about 2 days ago. 2 days ago. I was expected you to talk about it, but I guess maybe you didn't know. Somebody went over by Mrs. Nichols and break into her house. Right? Well, the police said they're looking into it, I don't know. But at the age of 19 years, how somebody can go into that lady house? You understand? The police and then need to patrol more. Situation 2, Charleston Police Station. Don't know if you're aware about that.
About what?
I don't know
About
who's
what?
responsible to find somewhere to put them, but the station is full of mold. I heard it on the radio, and it said that the court, the new magistrate in St. Kitts closed down the court in Nevis. So what I want to know, who has cases until further notice, because the whole place full of mold. So in further going down the state, suppose now in Nevis we have case, where would we go? Are you aware? Maybe when Grand Courts don't have any court, they will suggest to keep it there where Grand Courts is or what, I don't know. But the police and them need to come out the station. I don't know who is responsible for that, but you're the premier of the country, the police, them listen to you too. And if you pass down in the road, sometimes driving on the main road, you see most of the police are outside.
They're outside because of mold?
Yeah. They're outside, and Sunday night I called the Charleston Police Station, called me to do something. And okay, I'll tell you, when they lock up anybody, I have to feed them. So they call me about 8:15. When I finish, I prepare for them. I call the police. The police tell me he can't leave only he alone in the police station. I don't know what's going on. I'm just telling you from what I've been gathering. And I went and I asked what happened, but I know it's a long time they were complaining about the station. You fixed it. But presently now, the police need to get out of the station. Somebody went there to clean it, but the mole on them is still there. Gingerland Police Station also need looking after. To find somewhere to put the police on them, otherwise they're not going to function. And what happened over Libert Hill, you don't know what will happen over at Brown Hill. So there's that. I think you got to look into that. You're in charge of Nevis. Your duty to look into that. I don't know if you're heard or anything, but I'm just telling you what is going on.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm aware of the various matters that you've raised. I did not see that there was any need for me to discuss them or to raise them here because the matters are being dealt with. I'm aware, for example, that the police station, that in fact I'm looking at a note that I was sent just today, that there's some work that is to be done there at the police station, and that work is to be done by LEFCO, and that the renovation works are to be started very soon. The magistrate court that has been cleaned, I'm told the tests for mold came back very good results, so they should be resumed there by tomorrow. I'm actually reading from the note that was sent to me. The waiting area wasn't cleaned. That will be done today. It should have been done today. Mold is a problem that is impacting a lot of buildings on Nevis and St. Kitts. For whatever reason, I'm not quite sure. Some are blaming the AC, but that is an issue, and we are simply having to deal with it as best as we can when it arises, as we try to have a safe working environment for our people. But police, as you know, caller, is not a responsibility of the NIA. We have no line item in our budget to deal with these matters, but we have nevertheless continued to do all that we can, and sometimes to spend money that we don't have, in order to ensure that our police officers are comfortable. I think that they have an appreciation for what we have sought to do, whether it is providing vehicles or whatever else that we have been doing. So I would just want to make that very clear, that the contract has been signed with LEFCO. LEFCO will undertake the necessary work, and we will be shortly improving the position there at the police station in Charlestown. And so I was just, again, because information is being sent to me on the matter, caller, so I think that your call is timely, but the matters that you're speaking about are already being addressed, and so I would hope that you'll be calling back in a few weeks to say that you were there and that things look much better. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Hello? Nobody's there? Let's try this caller. Caller, good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello?
You're on the mark.
Okay, I just want Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
You know who I'm speaking?
No, I don't. Tell me.
The Major.
Yes.
No, what I want is I sat here. He's sitting here and contemplating on so many things. But just a little question I want you to answer. Just ask me, what is the meaning of conscience? Pardon me?
What is the meaning of what?
Conscience.
Conscience.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not sure. What does it mean to you?
What I say, I think of how I do that. I learned this in school and I thought about it, you know. I say conscience is a sense of right and wrong that govern a person's thoughts and action and a feeling of guilt. No, I'm not putting nothing to you as to say that you are guilty of anything, but I just want a clarity. You catch me? Conscience. He also went on to say, it went on again to say that conscience is because it is a search of perfection and love. It's bound to end in disappointment. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure what to think. Conscience is what it is. It's what you've described, and I think we all have a conscience.
Yes, of course. Yes.
So some people suppress it,
yes,
but we all have it, and we all, I think, know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
that would be my response to you.
Yes, I think so, because so many things happening. We hear sometimes I hear my mother say, "Lord, some arguing on a conscience." You know, I'm sure you hear that very often.
Of course, it is said, and in situations. But remember, we're human beings, huh?
Of course.
And I always say to people that Jesus came. Why did he come? He came to save us, right?
Yes, sir.
And he was perfect.
Yes.
And what did man do to him?
They still kill him.
All right. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're most welcome. We're sticking with the telephones and taking your calls. Let's go right back. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley. I'm Sandra Morton.
Yes.
I'm calling from Prospect.
Yes, Miss Morton.
So the feedback on your trip, I think it was one that was beneficial, and I wish you all the best in your endeavor to make Nevis a better place.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Morton. I appreciate it.
For the past week, I haven't been seeing the news from the Nevis newscast. Could you shed some light on that? Or should I assume that all the news can be viewed on the television?
Well, the Nevis newscast, this is what I'm advised. I'm advised, caller, that when they well, first of all, thank you for your call, Mrs. Morton. I'm advised that when they had some heavy rains, that the studio area somehow got flooded out, and that led to some mold situation developing. As a consequence, the staff has not been able to work to produce the news, and are currently seeking to find other premises that they can utilize. This is the information that I had. So I'm hopeful that can be rectified, because that same question arose in the Virgin Islands, where people there were asking what had happened to the news. So you're absolutely correct. It is a critical service that is provided, but it has been off the air, and it has to be rectified, and to be rectified quickly. It goes back to the same issue that the previous caller raised about some of the buildings that we have being unhealthy. And the question is, how do we deal with that, and how do we seek to have a work environment which is healthy for our workers. We have issues with other buildings as well. We had to leave the Bath Hotel because of the same issue, and there are some other buildings, even the new Treasury building, there have been concerns raised, and we're constantly having to clean those buildings. So it is an ongoing problem. As I said, I don't know what is happening with this mold situation, but government buildings in particular seem particularly susceptible, and our workers clearly are our first priority. So we have to ensure that we get it right. Let's stick with the phones and go right back. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening.
The we were going over by Ted Hudson that you had bought for the Premier's residence. What about that? That can be cleaned out and the place can clean and put NNC there?
Well, what premises were bought for the Premier's residence? What are you talking about? Which premises is this?
The house Bob is hugging that
Oh.
the government had bought.
Government didn't buy any house for any Premier's residence. You know that.
That is what everybody says.
Who's everybody? You are everybody now? Oh, we thought you were one body, but you like your everybody now. Anyway.
Okay, who built it is then, Mr. Brantley?
The land was purchased by the government. The intention was to use part of the land to expand the Bath Cemetery, and the rest of the land we are seeking to find a use for it. There are various options that are on the table for us. One option is to look at a new facility for government in terms of government buildings. Another option is to look at the Nevis Sixth Form or Further Education College, which we've promised to do. So we are not yet certain about what we're going to do that for. But let me say it again this evening, that there was never any purchase for any Premier's residence. I believe you know me, you know I have a home already. And I'm sure anybody who comes along as Premier should have a home as well. So that was never ever on the cards. That was some mischief that was created, and so we need to not engage in it. But the premises are there and the premises will be utilized. As I said, there are various things that are on the table in terms of what we do with it. But we will find a home for NTV. I think it's important, and we are actively looking now. I believe that the workers themselves have been out and have been engaged in that search. So again, I make that commitment, as I always do, to our workers, that we will seek to do our very best to ensure that they have a safe working environment. And so that is our commitment. We're taking your calls, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. We have a half hour left. I took a long time with my soliloquy, but while I'm waiting for the phones to ring, just again to invite the general public to a town hall meeting for the Concerned Citizens Movement tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow, Thursday, we will have a town hall meeting at 7:30 p.m. at the Credit Union building in Charlestown. And then on Saturday, we will be in the Bronx, in New York City. We're inviting all of New York to come out, all of Connecticut, Boston, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Maryland. Please come out and be a part of our meeting there in New York. It will be at 6 p.m. at the Grace Episcopal Church, 1909 Vice Avenue, 10460. We look forward to seeing you. Let's go back to the phones. Okay, we've lost that caller. Caller, please be patient and call us back. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
Yes, do you have a feedback?
There's no feedback. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. One question first. It is true that the government of St. Kitts going to take over geothermal in Nevis.
No, sir. That is false.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, because I want a call from Canada, and that's what I get. Okay, come back to you now. And then you have discussion here before. Now I will listen to you saying how much remission come in from overseas, from your father and Owen Thompson. Your mother had the credit there, and I think in Nevis, them telling everybody credit those times, because my mother used to credit some as well. But now I still cannot get over this. Yes, they are new region. Yes, they have to support. They should support the family, the children, the mother if they overseas. But when it comes to making decisions in terms of voting, I have a problem with that. Then you had this conversation before, and I still have it. Now, from what I get from you, because they send stuff for the family as you say, you fish the county barriers that come to Brownhill, because they do that, I don't think that they have the right. People else you send home things, and me one who don't believe that from the other countries that they send as much as the Jamaicans them to the country, to the people. And in Jamaica, you got to spend 6 months to vote in Jamaica, but in St. Louis Street. And I don't think it's right. You see, I heard you said you have no problem with it. And I can't be angry with you because you benefit from it. Because when I say you, not you alone, every politician, let me make that clear, benefit from the overseas voters. So for me, it's a problem, Mr. Brantley. I with you, I heard what you said, and nobody could take your belief, nobody could take my belief. Okay?
Okay.
And that is all.
Well, caller, thank you for your call. And are you done? You done?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And you did call some time ago, and you made that same observation. And as you say, it's your belief. And I won't argue with you, because I think that there are good arguments to be made on both sides of the line.
Mm-hmm.
People make the argument, say people living overseas, they don't pay tax here, they don't live here, they come and they help select a government, then they don't have to deal with it. I understand the arguments, but the point that I am making is that because a man happens to be in St. Martin or St. Thomas or New York or London, we don't know the circumstances sometimes that force them there, but they're there. If they have the interest in participating in their own country, I am not sure why they should be denied that opportunity. Take, for example, somebody who is in America on a green card. My understanding is they cannot vote in America unless they are a citizen. So the only citizenship that person has is St. Kitts Nevis. They can't vote in America because they're only a resident. And you're telling them they shouldn't be able to vote here because they're not living here. But those people will argue and tell you, and I agree to some extent that it is accurate, that they contribute. That especially in today's world, where they happen to be physically located, doesn't limit the extent to which they can contribute. When I was in the Virgin Islands this weekend, the big debate that they had on all the islands, St. Thomas, Tortola, and then St. Croix, was people wanting to know how we can ease the travel so that they could come home. They want to be here for Christmas with their families. They haven't lost their Nivisionness or their Kittitionness because they're overseas. And that is the argument, because they're saying that their navel string bury here, and is it only here they can call their own. And I use my father's example all the time. He left here, I'm told, in 1950s, 55 I think, and went to England. He left England in 68, went to New York, stayed there for 30 plus years, and then he came home. But for all of those years my father was abroad. When you talk to him, he tell you, I am Nivision. I come from Brownhill, and I want to go home. That is my plan. I am going home one day. So what do you say to our people? That they're good enough to bank their money here, they're good enough to come home and support Culture Ram and Carnival and buy land and build house and pay tax and do all that they can to promote Nevis in various organizations, NEVDC and there's one in Hearts and Hands in New York and NEVCAN in Canada. They raise money, they provide scholarships, they provide, all during COVID, Nivision sending home barrels and container full of stuff for us for the hospital, and you tell them you could do all of that, but don't think you could come here and have no say in who governs Nevis. It's a difficult proposition, and I'm simply saying I respect your view, but I don't share it. Because I feel that Nivisians remain Nivisians wherever they are.
Wherever they are. And don't care long they say, but you want to contribute in 6 months.
Well, I understand.
That usually back then, all you are going to just put it back into motion. But it was there. Good. You must take yourself and as you say that the gentleman said, you want I clinic in English?
You want everybody to be subjected to an eye exam?
Okay, good. Well, I think so. I with him. I with that gentleman. Because some people just cannot see. They could see and they can pretend that they cannot see. So those type of people, you just leave them and let them walk to Kasha. And they still don't walk to Kasha. Right? Because they see what they want to see, and what they want to see, they see. Mr. Brantley, you have a pleasant night, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. And I like the debate. It's respectful even though we don't agree with each other, and that's what I keep talking about, yeah?
Right.
So thank you very much for the exchange. I think that, as I said, there are legitimate arguments to be made on all sides of this issue. You hold your side. I think you're very powerfully holding it. I respect that. I'm holding my side. But that is how I want our country to develop. That people can bring opposing views but don't have to be disagreeable with each other.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution.
Yeah.
We have 22 minutes left on the show, and we are taking your calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Okay, we missed that caller. Let's keep trying. Good evening, caller, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good night.
You're on the air.
Yes, good night. Now, what I am concerned about is this dishonesty. We seem to have a lot of dishonesty here in Nevis. And people fighting other people for their property. You know, they had own property that they work for. Huh? When you spend years working and you decided to build your house and make a garden, your trees and whatever you make, right? Somebody else come in and decided that they want to reap what you provide for yourself and your family. And when you disagree with them, and you decided, well, I have to clean my place, you hire somebody to clean your place, and they don't have anything next to you, but they decided that you can't clean your place because they want to take your fruits and go on the town and sell it for four mangoes for $10, and you yourself plant your trees and you can't get none at all. What kind of law have we got here?
Well, that is not the law, caller. That is somebody who's stealing. That's not the law.
Yeah, but when you call, and if you call police is not representing you. People should not come and tell you that, oh, don't let it drop here. And the point is, the person don't have any land here. The person is not even from Nevis. These things are wrong. You cannot take people things and go on the market and sell it when people want it for themselves and prevent them from cleaning the property. My property here looks a mess and I don't like it. And nobody, whether it's from Guyana, St. Kitts or who, supposed to prevent you from cleaning your place because they have no place next to you. I born here, I grew up here. On this morning star, I've been here since 1954, and I don't like it. There's so many wrongdoings, and a lot needs to be looked into. Nobody's supposed to prevent you from cleaning your place, and especially if they don't have any right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I don't know that legally anybody can prevent anybody from cleaning their place. My place up there needs cleaning right now. I have to find a way to get my lawn cut. So people are cleaning their places all the time. I don't know that anybody can prevent you. And if somebody is somehow stealing your fruits or whatever, then that becomes a police matter. So I wouldn't want it to be said that that's the law here, because the law here prohibits that type of activity. Let's stick with the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah. That gentleman that called just before the last caller,
Yes.
he make a strong point. But, you know, the problem is, Mr. Brantley, people who live, the musicians who live abroad, they contribute here more than some musicians who live here. And they don't have to wait 6 months to send a check or send deposit, whatever, pay the taxes and that kind of thing. They contribute. I don't see how anybody could put a 6 month requirement on anybody who's a musician. You're a musician. I strongly oppose that. Once you're a musician, you're a musician. You do not you do not need no 6 months requirement.
But you know, there was a time. There was a time. Go ahead.
Mr. Brantley,
Yes.
the problem that he is going to run into is how he differentiates between those who contribute and those who don't. I mean, one of his concerns, and he read his call before and made a strong point, and I could see where he's going, but like you said, oh shit, that you know, he's saying that they don't contribute and they should be here 6 months before. No, if you're a division, you're a division. If you're a petition, you're national, you're citizen. You don't need no requirement to be that.
But caller,
again,
let me detain you for a half a minute, because one of the things that I've asked some people: do you know that under our law, if you are a Commonwealth national and you have lived here for 12 months, you can vote?
That is another consideration,
right? So I keep asking people, how can you embrace the fact that persons who are not originally from here are by law allowed to vote, but condemn Nivisians coming to their home with a navel string berry to cast a vote? And then you hear, well, there's a residency requirement, etc. But my point is that politics should be about enfranchising people, not disenfranchising them.
Exactly.
And I think that the people who live, contribute, have a connection, Nivisians, like I say, and when I go down to the vote, I mean, let me tell you, brother, I recognize the voice. Let me tell you that when we went to St. Thomas, Statola, and St. Croix, it was like we were home.
Yeah.
It was like we were home.
Mr.
You know?
Brantley, you see me? I cannot join anybody to talk about foreigners and non-foreigners and them kind of nonsense. I remember the days when my old man went down to St. Croix. He spent about 7 or 8 years down there. And they call him alien. You know, I mean, come on. These and we used to be here depending on them boats that used to come here every 2 weeks. Chrissy boats, some guys from Angola used to have some boats coming here. The Anna Christie Bell and them kind of boats there. You know, how can we now say? And I remember when this talk came up about 6 months requirement, and I remember making the statement: whoever come up with that idea gonna pay the penalty. And I saw it happen myself. I saw it happen. So let them go ahead.
All right, brother.
Yeah. Once you're in division, once you're petition, you're national. You're national. You don't need any other qualifying factor. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to On the Mark. It is 1:15 of 10 o'clock, and we're taking your calls. We have 15 minutes left. Let's go. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Greetings and love to your brother. How the night is back.
Everything is going well. Thank you.
And good night to your listeners via radio internet. This time I just like to look at something I heard you reference for tomorrow's sitting. With the tomorrow's sitting at the National Assembly, will it be these bills that they're presenting, will these them take in the level of on the administration where you are part of with Timothy and Sanitors, or there is something that these were introduced to a different level of discussion tomorrow?
As far as I know, these bills are being introduced by the new government. There's a bill to repeal the COVID protocols. There's a bill to amend the Sinkers Investment Promotion Agency Act, and there's a bill to amend the Aviation Act.
Okay, because I know you're the Minister of Aviation under the farm administration, so I just want to know if there was some different levels they put in power from what was there within your administration was.
No, these are just amendments that they're proposing as a new government.
Oh, well, like we just say, you know, I feel it that some of these legislation are getting forward. They have to make sure these things are well grounded to the people too, you know. So wherever the parliament setting goes in, the people must have a full understanding. I mean, remember, everybody could quote with what you already said in the parliament, you know that, right?
No, I think our people have good understanding. All they have to do is listen, and they will understand what is going on. They had what?
The behavior what occurred over Marriott. You see what you just said?
What occurred over Marriott?
Well, you see the behavior of the people who are now the administration. The supporters were very out of order.
Out of order in what? I'm not understanding. What are you talking about?
Considering the name call of the former prime minister, you see where some of them went up in a way and boo and still was disparaged within the statement while the man was giving his speech to acknowledge as being a member of parliament.
Yes, okay. I got you. And
I find that very disrespectful to see that in an opening of parliament where the deputy governor designate with cultural speech and then compare that here to see why they shouldn't behave like that. I could not be a supporter of the Labour Party. I respect them. I could not be a supporter of Palm Party. I respect them. I could not be a supporter of the PLP. I respect them. And just like how vice versa over in the TV show, I will not be a supporter of this one, but I respect you all.
So you don't support anybody? That's what you're saying?
Well, I respect you all. I didn't tell you I don't respect you all. You don't just make a statement say we must be able to have discussion that we can disagree.
I didn't say respect it. I said are you saying you don't support any party? That's what I said.
No political party.
Okay.
Because we find that you all are just as the same. I heard you make some comments earlier in your briefing towards the NRP. And when I look at it, you are just on the same ground, is just that with different color changes. And I could point out a lot of things that you, as being the premier, and even on the Brantley, who have gone on to the graveyard, have indicated a lot of wrongdoing to the people needed. But you all don't look at that. But we respect you all. But let me say this here tonight, my president, without any fear or favor. Educate the people then properly, that they can understand what you all are doing. They will not agree with everything that you all are doing, but let us have a benefit of the level of the course so that they're able to share the ideas that you all are employing as policy making.
All right. Okay.
It's time now the people need to have a say than just being 5 or 4 people or 3 people having the concept of saying they are representing the people needed. You don't go so because you are still going to something that is not a representation to the people needed. And the people of Kingston need as a federation. Well, my brethren, keep up your work, and I hope when you and the Prime Minister travel to Taiwan, you are bring back something that can bring good relief and development to Kingston need it. So the people of Kingston need to understand what context Taiwan been bringing forward to safeguard social well-being and economical affairs. Blessed love you, Sam.
Okay, thank you very much for your commentary, and what can I say except to say I appreciate your contribution. The numbers again are 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go straight back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
It's me again, Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
And this is in response to the absenteeism of the news from the News channel.
Yes.
I must say thanks for clearance on the matter, and I look forward to viewing when it comes back on.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. I do appreciate that very much. We have about 8 minutes left. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. We can take a few more calls, so if you're out there and you have some burning issue you want to contribute to the discussion this evening, this is your opportunity. Again, to remind the general public that we're inviting you to a town hall meeting tomorrow evening at 7:30 at the Credit Union building in Charlestown. So please come on out at 7:30 tomorrow evening. We will have an interactive session with the Concerned Citizens Movement as we tell you what we're doing and set out our plans for the future. And then on Saturday, we go back on the road and we will be in the Bronx in New York at the Grace Episcopal Church, 1909 Vice Avenue, 10460. We start at 6 p.m. and we're inviting you on Saturday to come to the Grace Episcopal Church in the Bronx and be a part of our meeting there. Do not let anybody tell you what was said. If you have the opportunity and you can make it, come out and hear for yourself. Ask your questions. Be informed in terms of what is happening, just as we just informed our brothers and sisters in the Virgin Islands. We will be making our way to the other islands. We'll be taking this message on the road and doing what we need to do to let you know precisely what is happening and to report to you as Nevisians, nationals living abroad. Let's go back to the phones. No, we lost that caller. Caller, please call back. We have time to take a few calls, so I apologize to you for that. But yes, so we're inviting one and all to come out to those meetings. We think that it is a very important initiative, and we are taking the time, making the effort, making ourselves available, because we definitely want our people to be able to interact, to hear from us, to ask the questions, even the hard questions. Bring them. Get clarity. If you're unsure about something, look at this gentleman who just called, say, Sinkits is taking over the geothermal. And again, that is one of the falsehoods being peddled by the opposition, because in St. Croix, a gentleman got up and asked the same thing about Sinkits taking over geothermal. Now, I have explained in my press conference what happened, that the Honorable Prime Minister would have sent the necessary correspondence to the CDB so that the project could move forward. CDB has been here. They have had a total of about, I think, 8 or 9 consultants in the Federation on Nevis in the past week and a half. But yet people out there, Sinkits is taking over. Why would Sinkits need to take over? Why? We see all of these are the things that are said. Just like I had to correct my friend when she called in and talk about property bought for the Premier's residence, like the Premier not living away. Huh? The Premier has a home. You know the Premier has a home. My opponent, who brought it to the public in the first place, knows. In fact, I have corrected her publicly, but she persists anyway, because the truth is not really important. As far as they're concerned, once they have something that sounds good to them, they just continue saying it. So you explain 1,000,000 times, this is the position, and they just like stick break off in the ear, because they're not paying attention. They don't care. If they could fool somebody by telling somebody an untruth, then that's the road on which they go. And that is why I'm saying it is high time that we move away from that. Now, if you come on here and you say that the government buy a property for the Premier to live in, the Premier said that is not true, because I know I live somewhere. I know. So, that is not true. But you still keep saying it. And we live in a society where nobody ever asks you, well, where's the evidence to support what you're saying? So people just take it and they repeat it. 400 million, right, gone, it missing. But it has been explained over and over again where monies were spent on this island. We have a budget every year, and unlike the NRP, we actually have audited reports now. So the Director of Audit tells you, the budget documents tell you what has been spent and where the money has gone, what has come in and what has gone out. But you say it anyway. And no matter how the explanations are given, you still continue to say it. And then you get people out there like parrots start to say the same thing. So we have, I think, to start to elevate our discussion. And we will not always agree. The only thing that I agreed with the previous caller about is when he says that, you know, you can expect that people will not always agree. And that is understandable. In fact, that is expected. But at the very least, if you're going to criticize, then criticize based on fact, not fiction, not something you sit down and say, well, okay, let me just say this. Criticize based on substance. Be able to show what is the wrong that you're complaining of. I had a call, a voice note sent to me the other day. And in the voice note, my opponent sent it to me. And she said that she visited a home and the person living in the home did not have a proper toilet. And she sent me the message castigating me for this person not having a proper toilet. And if that's the way I have people living in Nevis. Up to now she ain't tell me who the person is or where the person's home is. But I reflected and said to myself, well, if you care so much about people and you went by somebody's home and realized that they didn't have a proper toilet, well, why you not buy a toilet and give them? Has it ever occurred to you that perhaps you could help someone? Instead of that, you call me and castigate me. Say, I have people in Nevis living like that. And this is where, as I said, the disconnect. The inability, it appears, to extend your hand to people. If a man is out there in our community tonight and that man is hungry, that man's hunger cannot be satisfied by you going on radio to say that a man is hungry. The only way that man's hunger can be satisfied is for somebody to feed him. And it seems to me that the response from the opposition in Nevis is to go around and make a list and say all who don't have this and all who struggling with that. And then say it's the government fault. But how does that help that person? What is your plan to help that person? And the answer is none. Because I come back as I end the show with where I started. They are involved in politics not because they are interested in people, but because they are vexed with somebody that they want to get even with. And so they're not for anything, they're against something. Listen carefully and test my proposition for yourself as you listen to it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Again, I invite you to the town hall meeting for the CCM tomorrow, 7:30 sharp at the Credit Union building in Charlestown. And then Saturday, New York, New York, we will be there at the Grace Episcopal Church, 1909 Vice Avenue, 10460, starting at 6 p.m. We look forward to seeing you. Good night, everyone. God bless you.
views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.